On this episode of China Uncensored, China is on the rise. I mean, look at all the glittering skyscrapers. There couldn't possibly be some horrible, horrible downside. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. China loves building skyscrapers because nothing screams communist utopia like the giant gap between rich and poor. China is now the world leader in skyscraper construction. About 15 years ago, China started filling up with 10 to 30-story buildings, mostly residential, in first, second, and third-tier cities. But in recent years, skyscraper construction has gone through the roof, or the clouds, or whatever. According to the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, China has constructed more tall buildings than any other country every year for nearly a decade. They just can't quit. And as of 2018, among the 10 tallest buildings in the world, half of them are in China. In fact, that first one, the Shanghai Tower, is second in height only to that Mission Impossible building in Dubai. It's called the Shanghai Tower, and it's located in... okay, well, the name gives it away. Any similarity to the Eye of Sauron is purely coincidental. But there's another similarity between Sauron's tower and the Shanghai Tower. While both are impressive sights to behold at a distance, not many people actually want to rent space there. The Financial Review had called the Shanghai Tower a ghost tower with 55 vacant floors. Because less than 2 years after it was unveiled, only about 60% of the office space had been rented out. After 4 years, it's now just 80% occupied and has still failed to attract multinational companies. According to CNBC, the Shanghai Tower's rental woes reflect wider problems in China's real estate market. Just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. In cities in China, the vacancy rate will remain very high for some time, says Annie Zhang, who does office leasing for one of the agents for Shanghai Tower. But there's more at stake than just the prospect of a few real estate developers going belly up. Vikram Mansharamani, author of the book Boom Bustology, Spotting Financial Bubbles Before They Burst, says that building very tall skyscrapers is strongly correlated with investment bubbles. He analyzed historical trends and concluded that skyscraper building is one of the most robust bubble indicators over long time periods, especially the construction of super tall skyscrapers. China already has half of the world's tallest skyscrapers and doesn't look like it's slowing down in its ambitions. Construction has already begun on the Shimao Shenzhen Hong Kong International Center, which could upstage the Shanghai Tower. The Boom Bustology author says you can think of the world's tallest skyscrapers as indicators of lofty overconfidence and a spectacular indicator of bubbly conditions. And not the good kind of bubbly conditions. Dinny McMahon, author of China's Great Wall of Debt, says Chinese officials pumped the bubble up to ginormous proportions, that's the technical term, using borrowed money from state-owned banks. Local governments around the country try to juice and stimulate their economies by building more infrastructure and stimulating the property market, he said. But while the growth model may not be sustainable forever, there are powerful incentives to keep it going as long as possible. Because this kind of construction is commonly the result of cronyism, in which builders, investors, and other players are insiders who profit from it. And just like karaoke and Mao Tai liquor, it's a tough habit for corrupt Chinese officials to give up. But even if you can overlook crony capitalism and bad investments, there's a whole other problem with China's building boom: low-quality construction. It shouldn't surprise you that the same environment famous for cheap knockoffs like Crust toothpaste, Nintendo Polystation, and of course every child's favorite toy Robert Cop, is also home to cheap quality construction, like this building in Shenyang where part of the building just peeled off. Or this one in Shanghai that simply fell over one day. I'm glad I didn't buy a condo in that building. Now, this may not have happened so far with any of China's super tall skyscrapers, but low-quality construction is a major problem all across China. Developers cut corners, and a lack of proper oversight means builders can often bribe their way through official inspections, like this 65-story high-rise in Tianjin. The developer had built it through bribes and corruption without getting proper permits. He had illegally added 30 floors of apartment units without factoring important considerations like, how to deal with the sewage. But in a crackdown during Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign, authorities demolished it. So okay, China is building too many skyscrapers that are often unoccupied, potentially unsafe, and frequently designed to line officials' pockets. But do they at least fuel innovation? Officials in Beijing have talked a lot about needing to move up the value chain into more technologically advanced industries. And they've said that the key to sustainable realignment of the Chinese economy is innovation. Does building technologically advanced skyscrapers help? Not if you believe CityLab. They write that skyscraper canyons found in Asia's cities can create a type of vertical sprawl that suppresses the innovation that comes from street-level interaction. CityLab says the most innovative districts in the world are older industrial neighborhoods, like Cambridge near MIT, and areas adjacent to downtown San Francisco, where there's an abundance of mid-rise historic buildings that create street-level human interaction. Well, I guess it's back to the drawing board. Too bad the Communist Party destroyed all the old neighborhoods to build new skyscrapers. So what do you think about the dark side of China's skyscraper boom? Leave your comments below. And before you go, it's time for me to answer a question from one of you who supports China Uncensored through the crowdfunding website Patreon. Timothy Paustian asks, do the Chinese have a large debt bubble? What do you think will happen when that debt bubble bursts? Good question, Timothy. Yes, China does have a little bit of debt, like around $10 trillion worth. And that's just national debt. It doesn't include an additional $6 trillion in local debt that doesn't usually get counted. Which does make me feel slightly better about my student loans. A lot of local debt goes to finance things like, skyscrapers. But in modern economies, debt doesn't necessarily mean imminent economic collapse. The U.S. has even more national debt than China, and our economy is probably not in any serious bubble. Will China have a financial crisis? Probably yes, at some point. But it's impossible to predict when or what event will knock over the first domino. It could be the bursting of the real estate bubble. And if that happens, China's economy might end up looking like this. Or this. Thanks for your question, Timothy. And for all of you who love China Uncensored and want to see us make more episodes, please consider contributing to our continued growth by pledging $1 or more per episode by going to patreon.com/China Uncensored. The link is below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.